I'm sure that everyone in this room today, I'm sure that we all are familiar with Siri. And we know that Siri is on most Apple devices, Apple Watches, iPhones, and on MacBook Pros. Notice this. If I took my phone down and I clicked on Siri and I said 7069 Perkins Road, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70808. Here is what's going to happen. It's going to pull up the directions, and that's it. All I did was give Siri a physical location. Now notice the contrast. If I said directions to 7069 Perkins Road, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70808, it's going to pull up directions to Spectrum Fitness, and it's going to send it directly to my GPS and begin to navigate it right away. What does this illustrate? This illustrates that precise or succinct communication changes up the flow of how things work. You see, sometimes in life, we aren't getting where we need to be because we aren't saying the right things to ourselves first and foremost. So we only have a target, but we really haven't directed ourselves how to get there. Here is what I want to ask everyone that is present in this room today. Based on your current communication, the things that you're saying to yourself, are you getting better? Do you know the same amount of information that you knew yesterday? Have you learned something different about your company, your family, your friends? Are you sitting down every day thinking about ways, how could I say this differently? How could I have done this differently? The type of communication that you're saying to yourself controls your belief system. I'm going to talk about that today. As we embark upon a journey today, and I want everyone to be very excited about this because we're going to highlight a theme that I call guided communication, the key to having whatever you want. Now you may be wondering, why do I call this guided communication? When you think about a guide, what comes to your mind? Probably something that supervises, like a tour, something that assists someone. So what I'm going to do with God's help, I'm going to crawl right into your mind, and I'm going to use God to help me to guide you to recognizing that you can always better your best. We all have untapped potential. And we're going to cover 3 points of interest today. Those points are, number one, understanding how important it is to sow the proper seeds for communication. Why is this important? Number two, understanding reacting versus responding. There's a big difference, and understanding the nuances can literally change your life forever. Number three, we're going to talk about understanding the importance of success, laws, and principles. Once you understand this fully, you can literally guarantee your successes and your failures. Now, however, before I transition into those topics, I would like to take this opportunity just briefly, because this is my first time visiting you guys, to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Isaac Miller, as the paper has indicated. I'm 31 years old. I've been working for myself for 14 years now. I started at 17, and my interest in working for myself was sparked from my desperation to escape poverty. I've literally seen my dad 4 times after the age of 7. So I'm at 11, 15, 21, and 26. I remember when my grandmother used to tell my mom, she said, hey, you need to get off these government assisted programs, Section 8, food stamps. And I was listening to that, and right then and there, I understood it at the age of 11. So my communication system, which eventually affected my belief system, started to filter through my brain. And I said, you know, I don't like that. Like, why can't we have our own things? So I began to encourage my mom. We can do this. We can get off these programs. But here's the situation. My mom was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic when I was 7. So she couldn't work. At least she thought that she couldn't. So I was naive at this time. I didn't believe all of that stuff. I said, I don't care what those doctors are saying. We can do this. We can get off these programs. That was my philosophy at that time. So what I said, you know, my dad isn't around. No one's coming to my rescue. I turned to the only thing that I knew, which was God. So I said, show me a way. You have to show me how I'm going to escape these situations. God gave me the wisdom to understand that no one was coming to my rescue. My dad wasn't around. So I was blessed to have an elderly couple study God's word with me. And at that point, it changed my belief system. It changed my communication, helped me to realize that I can't control the environment I was born into, but what I can control is what I do moving forward. So I really understand the importance of communication. And here's what happened. Over a 7-year period, after me constantly reminding my mom, we can get off these programs. Well, son, I'm sick. I don't care about that. You can do this. It took about 7 years, and then she started to believe. This is a true story. So in 2008, my mom started to encourage my stepdad, because he was living off my mom. He didn't have a job. So she started to encourage him. He said, hey, you need to get a job. So eventually he went and found a job, and then he went and got a house at some point. So I'm not taking credit for what they did, but here's what they taught me. Your belief system, your communication, your self-talk, how you see yourself, you never know, it could affect other people, and it does. So you can either encourage people to step into their greatness or step into their mediocrity, and it all starts with you. It all starts with the seeds that you are planting inside your own mind. Now let's talk about that. Now think about a seed. Just think about an apple seed. Put that in your mind. Think about any seed, whatever you want. You want to use a grape seed, that's fine. Picture that seed. Inside that seed is a tree. You don't see it, but it's there. We don't create seeds. We can't create seeds. We can only nurture the seeds. So likewise with your mind, every day you're planting seeds into your mind. Now here's the question. The seeds that you're planting into your mind, is it going to grow successful trees or trees of mediocrity? How is the communication amongst the co-workers? How is your communication with the clients? Here is what's interesting to understand. You are controlling the outcome of your sales. You are controlling the outcome of every last thing from start to finish. There's a biblical principle at Galatians 6:7 says you reap what you sow. It says God is not one to be mocked. It said don't try to prove that wrong. Here's what we have to understand, precisely understand how we sow the seed. I'll give you an example. Sometimes we experience adversities with clients because it's our fault. We don't realize it. I'll give you an example. Let's say I was training Chris, and Chris hired me for a session. And I told Chris, we're going to do all this stuff, and you're going to get here at this time. And I'm just telling Chris what he wants to hear, even if I partly know that maybe what I'm telling him isn't exactly true. So I'm conditioning Chris to think that, okay, you're going to get abs in 2 weeks, that you're going to have all this stuff because I want to make Chris happy. But really, that's going to backfire on me. I've sown an improper seed in his mind. But then when Chris, wait, man, you told me I was going to get all this stuff, because I'm scared to be real with him. But here's the thing. If I am real with Chris, I can change up the seed that he's growing in his own mind. How do I do this? How do you break through any solid belief system with new data? Incontrovertible truth that proves that, hey, this has to go this way, this way. And don't look at it like this. There's 5 domains in life. You have your spiritual domain, your physical, your emotional, your social, and your cognitive. So you have to get ahead of the sale. You have to pretty much step out years ahead of how they're thinking and preempt it. And you can do this with everything in life. But you have to understand this. If you don't believe that this is necessary, then you won't be able to do it. You can only implement actions based on your belief system. It starts with your communication. So here's what's necessary to do. Ask yourself right now, what have you done differently within the past week? Are you coming up with new ways to say different things? Look at your personal performance. Is it stagnant? You have to be objective. It's so easy to be kind to ourselves, but this does not lead to productive planting of seeds. Because here's the thing. Remember, I said precise communication. If I tell myself, well, it's not that bad, guess what? I plant that wrong seed in my mind, and I can't get ahead with that form of thinking. So when you look at yourself right now, what kind of trees are growing in your mind? Are you growing trees of love? Are you growing trees of goodness? Are you growing trees where you're amazing your customers? See, here's the thing. Your goal is not to impress your customers. Your goal is to amaze your customer. Anybody can impress someone. What happens when you're amazed? Oh my goodness. That is the goal, to amaze people. So here's what's interesting. We can't amaze someone else if we aren't amazing ourselves. So sometimes we're listening to music, and there's nothing wrong with listening to music. We're watching TV programs, but we have to understand this. All of those are seeds that we're planting in our minds. So we have to manage ourselves. So sometimes we're looking at our coworkers, and this happens a lot. I'm not saying this happens with you all, but you should have did this. But what could I have done? You see, there's another biblical principle at James 4:17 that says, he who knows what's right to do and fails to do it, it is a sin for him. So what this simply means, sometimes you have to not focus on doing you can't focus on being right. You have to focus on doing what's right. So if one of your coworkers doesn't know how to do something, as opposed to saying, well, you should have did this, what could I have done better? If I know that you're not going to do something, as opposed to saying, I know you're going to fail, but I'm going to let that happen. It will be better, more productive for me to go ahead and do what's necessary so that we all win. Here's what you need to understand. When you are playing on a team, no one is free until everyone is free. No one is winning until everyone is winning. For example, let's say you're going to work for this company for 40 years. Let's say you're 10 years into the company. What's your vision? What communication seeds are you planting into your mind? Have you already thrown a towel in 5 years into it? If, for example, you're supposed to get 20 leads, are you still only getting 20? But here's the thing. If you're only getting 20 leads now, if that was your goal as an example, are you capitalizing? Or is your execution improving? How do we know? So are you being objective? Or are you talking to Chris as an example? Here's what you need to understand. Everyone in this room is a leader, and you have to see yourself as a leader. Every business that doesn't train their employees to think like leaders, they never multiply. A leader that leads other leaders multiplies. A leader that leads followers just expands. That's it. So why do you think Walmart has thousands of companies? Because they trained other leaders. Even Jesus did this. He trained leaders. He said, look, I have to go now, guys. You got to go do this yourself. So when you see a vision, your connection, oh, I see where we're going. And everyone is capable of doing that. But guess what it starts with? The seeds that you're planting into your own mind. So no one has to know. Step into your mind right now and ask yourself, am I trying to grow with this company? Am I encouraging my coworkers? Did I say, hey, that was a good job? I say, hey, I've been observing you. You're getting better at this. Did I say, hey, let's get together and think about some new ideas? We're getting a little stagnant, a little monotonous in this category. Are we doing that? You can't do that if you don't put the right information into your own mind. This is very powerful. And I'm sure I'm a big time reader. So read 2 to 3 books a week. I'm an author as well, if I didn't say it. So here's what's important to understand. Your mind, if you can let's create the mind right here. Let's just put it out on the table. Step outside your own mind. Look at your production for what it is. Is it your best? If you said that your current production is your best, you've already sown the wrong seed. You can always better your best. Your greatest threat to your future success is your last success. For example, remember, I said if you're going to work for a company for 40 years and you're only 5 years into it, and you say, that's my best. How could that be your best? You're only 5 years into it. So we have to change up how we're thinking. Are we doing this? Very important to understand. Now, I want to move on to reacting versus responding. There are a little bit of nuances there, but these words are actually the same. But are they? Here's what you have to understand. Again, you, the person in charge, the professional, you are controlling the outcome of the sale. Now, this is relative, but it's absolute to a high degree. Whenever you lose a customer, it's always best to say it's your fault. Even if objectively you see, okay, it's obviously their fault. The whole point of that is it trains you to look for something you could have done better. If you say, well, it's their fault, you'll never see what you could have done better. Now, let me talk about reacting versus responding. Now, reacting it's like a chemical. For example, let's say Chris got in my face and hit me, I reacted. Oh, what you doing? That's a reaction. Now, it has more of a negative connotation. It can also be positive, but it's more negative. So emotions change every 5 seconds, literally. You see, the law of polarity states that everything just is. We decide if it's good or bad. For example, let's say I lost a bunch of money, I lost anything. I can't at that moment tell myself, what can I learn from this? I decide if it's good or bad. Benjamin Disraeli, a man is not a creature of circumstances, but circumstances are creatures of man. So we need to understand that. Well, no matter what happens in your life, I know that things happen to us all. But I decide, what am I going to do? No one is controlling my mind. Now responding. See, responding has more of a positive connotation, more of a stimulus. Here's how everything takes place. A stimulus has to activate one of your 5 senses. For example, when you meet someone, let's say, or romantic interest, there's a stimulus there. You're going to like how they smell, what you see, how they talk. You're going to feel something. It's going to activate one of your 5 senses. At this point, now you're going to go through a value versus role stage. Do I want to get to know you? Do I want to be your friend? Do I want to date you? And then you're going to go and make a commitment. Now you're going to make a decision. Everything goes like that. But it starts with the responses we're giving our replies to ourselves. So when you're engaging with your customers, if you are reacting, you're always failing. And that comes from planting the wrong seeds in your mind. So you need to be responding. Responding has a natural, inherent thing that's embedded into it, and it's called thinking things through. So if Chris hits me as an example, I could easily just respond and go crazy. But I say, maybe Chris had a bad day as an example. Well, if I do this, this is going to happen. So now I'm responding. There's a personal dialogue. I'm not just letting my emotions govern me. So if a client says something you don't like, if you're reacting, you're going to lose, guaranteed. But if you respond, listen, then say, well, maybe I planted this seed. Maybe I led this person to thinking this way. But if you're not doing that, you're not going to see that you told the client something that led to them thinking that way. So we just take the personal responsibility that I am growing. Look at each client as a tree. They're a seed. They're going to grow into something, and you're going to water it. They're not expecting to water their own seeds. They're expecting you to do it. So what environment are you creating? Are you letting them create the environment? If they create the environment, it's all for their benefit. You wrong, I'm right. So we have to get ahead of that. So right now, how are we doing in that category? Reacting, or are we responding? We have to be honest with ourselves. Remember, the inability to be honest with yourself guarantees your failure. Why? That's the wrong seed planted. It's kind of like you have people that will argue with the sun. The sun ain't out, but there it is. No, that's your perspective. There's something called pragmatism, where we search for absolute truth. So we have to look for what it's producing. Again, Jesus said in Matthew 11:19, wisdom is proven righteous by its works, what it produces. Take out your feelings. What is it producing? That's how you know. So we have to look at that. Are we able to do that? Just look at it for what it is and say, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. It's not Chris' fault. It's not this person's fault. It's my fault. I'm about to come to work with a new spirit. I'm about to become unstoppable. I'm about to activate the winner within me because tomorrow isn't promised. I'm going to give my best spiritually. I'm going to give my best financially, socially. I'm going to increase my own personal value so that I can be a better source of value to you and you and you. And when we do this, I guarantee you this, everyone goes to another level. And what does it return? What is the return? Better spirits, more money. See, sometimes we focus on money more so than our personal value. Money is attracted to value. So the more valuable we become, everything falls into place. But that only takes place by changing up the seeds that we're planting into our own minds. So we want to think about success laws and principles. Here's what I discovered, and this is universally true. You have philosophical laws, historical laws, biblical laws, scientific laws, and psychological laws. All of these things are interconnected. If one understands that you have to break a principle before you break a law, their life will never be the same. Let me give you an example. the law of gravity. I don't think anyone in here will get on a 100-story building without any paraphernalia to preempt gravity and jump down and say, I'm going to survive. Gravity doesn't care if you're a good person, bad person. Don't care if you have $1 billion or $2. If you jump, it's going to pull you down and you will die. That's a law. Now here's the principle that is broken. A principle of soundness of mind. A principle of safety. If I get on the edge of a cliff with nothing to preempt gravity, I'm doing this and I slip and fall, I broke a principle. The law doesn't break us. The law doesn't break, rather, the law breaks you. Laws are already in place. The laws of reproduction for a baby. Everything is like that. We have to look for the laws. We guarantee our successes. There's a law to protein. Protein is only going to be protein. I can't do squats and think it's going to work my chest. The law of specificity. So what you need to do is look at all the laws that you have created in this process. You see, when someone isn't improving in their performance, it's either the person or the process itself. Normally it's the person. So if you have a process that has been identified to work, as an example, let's say, hey, I need you to make 50 phone calls a day. I need you to turn it into 5 leads. And let's say everyone else is doing that. Other person says, man, I just can't do it. So it's that person. So sometimes we have to increase our numbers until our execution improves. So we have to take personal responsibility, that communication. Again, your communication controls your belief system. Go back to my example when I was a little boy. What if I said, I'm a victim, which somewhat was a victim, but what I'm saying, that attitude isn't healthy. No one was coming to my rescue. I'm a victim. Why me? Wrong seeds. Although it's not my fault, because children can't control the environments they're born into, what I'm saying is I can't control what happened. What I can control is what I do. Awareness. So are we aware of how important communication is? So the question that you need to ask yourself today is, what are you going to do moving forward? What new goals are you going to set? And when I'm talking about goals, I'm not talking about goals that just allow you to make more money. I'm talking about goals that allow you to grow into a true leader. I'm talking about goals that are holistic. You see, everything in life is connected. The better in shape you are, it affects your performance. The healthier your mind is, it affects your performance. You can't think and do things to say because you're not putting new information into your mind. You can always get better. There's a concept called the acquem terminus. Now, this is a thing that symbolizes that there is no end to the mind. It continues to stretch. And that's what scientists are saying. Our subconscious minds have unlimited potential. Only a person that truly believes that they're unlimited can actually be unlimited. So then your reticular activating system is going to start supporting information that supports that. But again, it goes back to your communication. So here's what I want to tell you. You are unlimited. You are unlimited. You are unlimited. You are unlimited. You are, and you are, and you are. Everyone is unstoppable. So if we're unstoppable, that means that this construction company should be the best in the nation, the best in the world. Not saying that it isn't. Because if we are unstoppable, then we can do that. The question is, are you going to make that commitment today to do that? And here is what I want to leave you with. We talked about a tree. Look at your current tree. Where is it? It could be here. It may be here. Maybe it's still in the ground. Are you going to continue to water your seeds? But here is another caveat. Are you going to plant the right seeds? If you plant the wrong seed, you're going to grow the wrong seed. We don't want to plant wrong seeds anymore. What are wrong seeds? Blaming other people, not reading new information, not studying the best at what you're doing, your competitors, not seeing how to improve, not looking at your spirituality, not just religion, but your belief system. Your belief system controls everything. Your emotional state, are you happy? You can't fake it. Looking at your health, looking at your diet, how you eat and how you're taking care of yourself. You're looking at ways to make other people better. The person that does that, here's a principle. I want to leave this with you. There's something called a success formula, and it works every single time. It works in all sales industry. It works in life, period. Everything is sales. Chris is selling himself to his wife. I am too. If he stops brushing his teeth, he comes in the house treating her any kind of way, throwing beer all over the place, he's going to have some problems. He can't do that. So it's whatever you're doing, you have to keep it up. All aspects of life. So this is why I'm saying, if you're going to work here long term, if you're going to be unstoppable in life, you can't get comfortable. It's so easy to do that. Everyone is excited when we first start something out. Oh, I'm excited. And then after 6 months, 6 years, we start complaining, not realizing it's coming from the seeds we're planting in our own mind. So the success formula is this simple. It's 4 steps. You always inform. I'm going to talk about it. You always inform. Number 2, you always give. Number 3, you always ask. This can be direct or indirect. And then number 4, you revisit. Now, how does this work? Information. Information means to form the mind. It comes from inspiration. So there's a big misunderstanding about motivation and inspiration. Most people don't realize they can't stay motivated because they're inspired improperly. For example, if Chris is inspired by, I'm going to work out for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to do this and that, and then I'm done. He's going to quit his program. The only way to maintain health benefits is to do it forever. If he stopped working out, his nice physique will go away. So if you plant the proper seeds, the proper inspiration, you're going to be motivated. See, motivation means to pull. Inspiration takes place first. Inspiration lasts. But if it's the wrong inspiration, it's going to affect the motivation. For example, that applies to everything. So what inspires you? Why do you want to come to work? Why do you even wake up? What is it? If it's not something that's going to drive you forever, then you need to look at the seeds you're planting into your mind. Some money may not drive. It could be something else. It could be the fact of knowing that, hey man, I helped this company grow. It could be just whatever it is for you. So information. The information you take and now you can inform. So what are you informing people of? Do they know it? No one can give you anything if they don't know about your product. So now we're asking. We're giving rather. This is another biblical principle. Acts 20:35. It's better to give than receive. Luke 6:38. What you measure out to other people will be measured out to you. Exactly. We don't see it always, but exactly what we give other people, we're going to get it back. And it may not come from that person. It could come from a referral. Anything except that. This is true. So, for example, let's say I was trying to sell Chris some training. Let's say Chris can't afford it, but I treat Chris nice. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Checking on Chris. A year later, Chris, hey, I get a call. Hey, Chris referred me to you. It works every single time, but we don't expect it. We just be who we are. So you must become the salesperson. You must be all in there. You must become one with it. You must understand the